This is a Global Original Podcast. As you can hear from the echoey sound of my voice, I'm speaking to you from the walk-in fridge that Boris Johnson will hide in the next time he's asked an impertinent question about this kaleidoscopic clown show that is his response to the virus. At the moment, there's nothing in here. This week, there's nothing like a dame. There's nothing like a dame on a pink boat to get the permanently vexed to start yelling. These clips were from a beautiful week in April last year, when that boat sailed into London West 1. Paul in South Africa says, I agree with the depressing climate change future. Apart from artificial intelligence, there will be no more threat for mankind. Yeah, artificial intelligence is coming to get us. If climate change doesn't get us first.
Affirmative.
Dame Emma Thompson today. How ridiculous is that? Not that she came over here, or even that she came over here by plane, but that she's a dame. There ain't nothing like a dame. What's she a dame for? What a cunt! This is a silly country. We just hand out names and titles. I mean, dame is not a grand title. There are much more grand titles for a person than dame, and it appears to me, to an ignorant outsider, that the higher, the more grand the title, the more crooked the person. You know, in most countries, if you break the law with your financial finagling, you will go to jail. In this country, you go to the House of Lords. But anyway, Dame Emma defended herself for flying 5,400 miles from Los Angeles to London to take part in the Extinction Rebellion protests that have, according to the Daily Mail, crippled the capital. What are they talking about? I mean, I know that everybody's on the edge of their seat, desperate to get furious about stuff, but crippled the capital? Oh, no, it didn't. I was in the middle of London yesterday. I was within spitting distance. I could have chucked a piece of paving stone. I was so near. I could have hit that boat. And I didn't intend to go there. Like, I wasn't going there to lend my support. I was just around that area, and I was getting from one side of Oxford Circus to the other, and I skirted around it. I didn't want to join the throng, but I could see it, and I could hear it. And you know what was not the case? That the capital was crippled. Oh, no, it wasn't. Actually, it was better than it normally is. But I'll get to that in a minute. So Dame Emma had to defend herself for flying. And she had to defend herself to to people who've probably flown hundreds of thousands of miles in their lifetime. I mean, a couple of things. First of all, the press have been having a field day lately because, first, here's a story that is not about Brexit. They found one. And second, it gives them the chance to fulminate about the young. You know the sort of thing, kill 'em all. No, that's too good for 'em. Give 'em a good wash, then kill 'em, then bring 'em back to life and kill 'em again. The amount of newsprint and internet spaces has been taken up with pouring indignant fury on those people that are trying to highlight the life out of balance that we're all living was as comical as it was entirely expected. Have you ever heard anything like it in your life? And I lost count of the amount of gotchas the media came up with. Aha, they said. There's one with a paper coffee cup.
No!
There's another one with a plastic water bottle.
What?
Look at that one. He's middle class. What does he know about anything? And there's a woman with purple hair. And she's smiling. And preeminent among them was a lover who had used an actual plane to come over and lend her support. And people were talking about this as though the plane would not have travelled were it not for Dame Emma being on it. Of course it would. It wasn't a private plane. She didn't charter it. That plane was going whether it was sitting there or not. And then people were saying, oh, well, if you travel first class, of course, then you've created exactly 1.8 megatons more of particulates in the atmosphere. It's on and on and on. Desperate to do anything but to actually address the issue. Killing the messenger, as usual. I mean, it's the same with climate science itself. The vast majority of the world's scientists who are not in the pay of the coal and oil companies say that it is a thing. It is monumentally serious, and it's us what are causing it. And if we're not actually causing it, then we are exacerbating it. And the usual suspects dismiss those people entirely because science once got something wrong. And they probably also believe in religion, despite religion getting things wrong for the entire time since it was invented. Religion used to insist that the sun was pulled across the sky by a winged chariot. No, the sun's pulled across the sky by magnets. I think the people, the reason that people are so furiously angry at these protesters is that they are saying something that the rest of us don't want to be true, because if it is, we're going to have to change our lifestyles to prevent disaster. That's why people are digging their heels in about this. That's why people start clenching their fists and screaming every time anybody says anything about climate change. It's because they don't want to have to change their lifestyles. No one wants to change their lifestyles. Even if you don't like your lifestyle, you still don't want to change it. It's much easier to rubbish those that are doing the warning because of the small amount of disruption they cause and because they are young and they are colourfully clothed. But can you imagine the disruption that would be caused by the rain not falling? I mean, to have a summer like last year every year. I know initially it might sound good, but we would run out of water pretty quick. Farmland would become unsustainable. Food prices would go up. We'd have to get our foods from further and further away. And what if their rains failed too? What would we eat? And what of the people who live in those areas? What will they live on? They'll have to leave, and guess where they will head? That's right. If you think that immigration's bad now, just wait till the people of Africa leave their homelands because they can't grow anything anymore. And they start heading north by the millions. And you know where north is? Here. So be careful of what you dismiss.
Coming up, how to spend money and what looks like a missive from Her Majesty.
Hi, Annie. How are you?
I'm super. Thanks for asking. Carl says, I read your new... These, by the way, are tweets and emails from last week. There's an entire page, and there must be about 30, 40, 50 of them that I didn't get around to. So, I'm a good boy, I am, and I'm answering them in good time. Well, I know that everybody wants everything instantaneously these days, but it used to be the case that we wrote a letter, and then you put it in an envelope, and you pressed the mucilage together, and then you stuck it up a post box, and some person would take it away and stick it in his van and then go around with a bag, and eventually that letter would get to a person, and you'd expect a response in 2 weeks at the minimum. Anyway, it says, I've read your new book. Do you know that there's a typo right on the first page? Yes, yes I do. I don't understand it at all because, first of all, I put the e-book out, and I don't think that there's a typo on the first page of the e-book. And then you just copy and paste. You say, take this file and make it into a paperback. Now, I'm not very good at this, but I don't understand why there would be a mistake in one but not in the other. So I expect it's Amazon's fault. James says, the food issue is no issue. We simply start eating each other and solve the overcrowding at the same time. People. They're eating people. Who's calling Woking? Hello, Jeff.
Hello, Nick, good boy Abbott.
Yes, sir.
Nick, I agree entirely with what the protesters are doing insofar as I agree with their cause, the environment. You know, it's very important.
Yeah.
But I think that my only concern is that they keep the roads clear and the bridges clear in London for the emergency vehicles to get to hospitals and get to incidents, because it's only a matter of time before the delay caused by a road being blocked or a bridge being blocked is going to cause a major incident. I think.
Well, I mean, has that been the case? Have ambulances been blocked?
Well, there was a protest the other day where they blocked Westminster Bridge, and obviously any ambulance trying to get to St Thomas's from Parliament Square or St James's Park or somewhere would have a problem, But I think what the authorities should do, the Home Secretary should have a meeting with the leaders, the organisers of the protests, and say, look, you're free to have your protest. It's a free country. Protest about what you like. There's plenty of open spaces, Hyde Park, all the various squares and greens in London where they can protest, and let people go about their business, and let the emergency vehicles be free to go about their business.
Right. Well, I don't know that any emergency vehicles haven't been free to go about their business, but the problem with that scenario, Jeff, is that we wouldn't be talking about it right now. They wouldn't be on the news, they wouldn't be in the newspapers, they wouldn't be on talk shows. None of this would have actually happened. If they had been protesting in parks or just waving a flag outside the Houses of Parliament, they would have got no publicity at all.
I'm not sure, Nick. I think if you have X amount of 1,000 people in Hyde Park or in Parliament Square or Lincoln's Inn or wherever, I think the media would be invited down there, and they couldn't get there quick enough, to interview them and to make, be on headline news just the same.
Yeah,
and
I think it would be a small item of news way down the running order, and it wouldn't appear again the next day. It would have been forgotten about entirely.
They'd keep the support of the general public as well, because a lot of the general public will get fed up with it, not being able to get to work.
Well, the general public will be fed up if the waters come in and they start lapping at their nostrils.
Yes, I agree, but I think they should protest, but keep the roads clear for the emergency vehicles and to keep London working. Keep London busy.
Yeah, well, okay, I understand what you're saying, and I have sympathy with that. But if they did that, then no one would be talking about them right now. It's only because they have caused disruption that people have been falling on this story. All right, thanks a lot, Jeff. This says people of Lincolnshire and Norfolk and Suffolk will want to migrate to Europe in a few years because of rising sea levels. Well, or Wales, perhaps, they would want to migrate. And this says, my husband and I... oh, my God. The Queen is listening. It says, my husband and I are listening to you, and you're spot on. Oh, wait a minute. The Queen would never say that. She says, the last 5 days have caused more passion and discussion about the environment than any other mass demonstration. Also, veganism is the most environmentally viable lifestyle. Everyone should go vegan, but that's for another week. Yeah, let's not pile it on. Let's think about one thing at a time. Although it's related. I've done my bit for veganism by being a vegetarian for 20 years. I know they're not similar. Well, they are similar, but they're not the same. I was a vegetarian for 20 years. And I'm not anymore, and I ain't going back. So yummy. If God didn't want us to eat cows, he wouldn't have made them out of meat. And I think you'll find that's correct. Gavin in Caterham says, it's the "it will never happen to me" mindset, and unfortunately it'll be only when it happens that the whinging and the whining will begin for the masses.
Whinging and whining and moaning.
That's right. See, there's this urge to dismiss the threat of climate change because it's not visibly happening right now in our country. We dismiss all these scenarios, and we call them fake. It's the human race putting its fingers in its ears to mute the sound of a fire alarm. Or that thing that happens in those sci-fi films.
Warning, warning!
This ship will self-destruct in 5 minutes. Well, if we were the crew of that ship, we'd be looking to see if we can turn off the warning signal, because, that'll solve the problem. Most of the commentators in the press and online that have been fulminating about these people, they don't even live near London. They just piled in because it's open season on hippies. By which I mean people that care. And so these commentators just spit out their rage at people that care, because they certainly don't care about anything except their immediate gratification. Like a baby. The whole human race is at the developmental age of a toddler. All we want's instant gratification, and to hell with the consequences. And this is where it's got us. Having to be told that we're getting it wrong by some woman with purple hair. That's a sign. I mean, you want to know what the consequences of short-termism are? You see it everywhere. Why is the high street boarded up? Because we don't want to go down to the town to buy the things that we don't need with money we haven't got. We'd rather stay in and have someone bring it to us, and we'll save 10 pence.
And this is despite the fact that we know that the company that we're buying it from doesn't pay its taxes. And the taxes that it avoids have to be made up by us. That's the reason we're broke. We overspend and we do it in the wrong places. And because the richest companies on earth avoid paying their taxes, there aren't enough hospital beds or doctors or nurses or operating theatres or medicines or treatments, and there aren't enough police and bin collectors and school places and teachers or any of the things that we rely on. Because the government hasn't got the money. Because all the tax that used to get paid by the shops that we used to spend our money in aren't there anymore. Because we buy all our stuff from a company that exists only as a figment of our imagination for tax purposes. It doesn't have a base, it's a mist. And then we complain that the centre of the town is just a row of empty stores and betting shops, as though it's someone else's fault. And the same thing, the exact same thing is going to happen when the rains fall, or it rains all the time, or it never rains. And the crops wilt, or they don't grow in the first place, and the insects disappear, and nothing grows at all because the pollinators are gone, and the seas rise, and central London is flooded. Well, what do you think the disruption to traffic's going to be like when there's water in the streets? But no, never mind about that. They're hippies. You know, I was in central London yesterday, and the difference was remarkable. Initially, I thought, maybe it's because it's Easter that it's so quiet. And then I realised, oh no, that thing that's on the news, that's actually happening right now. I'm in it. And I tried to negotiate my way around Oxford Circus and the streets around it. Oops. And the difference was really remarkable, and it showed a better way of life, frankly. I've never seen London quite like it since Princess Di got married to, that guy. The streets were empty on that day, if you can remember back that far. And I've never seen them that empty in the middle of town than on the Thursday, yesterday, when I was wandering about, minding my own affairs. But I'll come to that in a minute.
Coming up, what that was like when I happened upon the protest by accident.
I really like you. Do you like me?
So I was in central London yesterday, and it was marvellous. And I skirted around Oxford Circus to avoid the throng. I mean, I could see it, and I could hear it, but I didn't want to be in it. I didn't want to end up on the nightly news being carted away like Julian Assange, horizontally. You see, I wasn't there for that. I was wandering around acting like I was on holiday, and it was wonderful. Having a drink here, seeing the gallery there. And the thing I noticed more than anything else about the protests was that they had given the centre of London back to people. You could walk down streets that would normally be full of belching cars, and that were now free of traffic. It was great. It was like the centre of a city should be. Livable for people and not just retrofitted for the benefit of those on four wheels. So the protests gave a glimpse of a better life. And I bet I'm the first person who's actually said that. Everybody else has been just boggle-eyed furious that anybody stopped traffic. Well, it's great to stop traffic. You know, whoever the idiot was that refused the idea to pedestrianise Oxford Street should be thrashed. Unless that's a controversial thing to say, in which case I take it back. I mean, I understand that some journeys have to be done by car and van and so on, but if we could find a way to rid the centre of cities of most of the traffic that currently makes it hard to cross the road and enjoy a drink outside and, you know, breathe, then that would be a good thing, wouldn't it? But as that would also be a change, just the very idea creates a sort of fury in the minds of the permanently angry that you could see from space. And boy, have they been going on and on and on and on and on and on about it. And the protests closed key routes through the capital, and dozens of officers marched into Oxford Circus today while Emma Watson stood on top of a pink boat reading a love poem about the earth.
Groovy.
And that's easy to ridicule. I mean, it's got a poem in it for a start. And second, she's an actress, which means she can't have an opinion on anything. The only valid opinions that the constantly annoyed allow to come from... Hang on, I'm going to have to cough. See, pollution. Emma Thompson's problem was that she is an actress. It's what she does for a living. And actors aren't allowed to have an opinion on anything. The permanently furious only allow the other permanently furious to have an opinion on anything. She's not allowed to have an opinion because she doesn't do opinions for a living. I mean, if you just look at the comments section of the news websites, I mean, they're full of experts in climate science writing about how incorrect are the protesters' conclusions. I'm kidding. They're full of ignoramuses belching their furious opinions all over the internet about someone who has the audacity to express their opinions. They want to lock it up. Here's a call in Archway. Hello, Tina.
Yes, hi.
Tina.
Yeah?
You sound surprised,
hi.
Tina. You called me, remember?
Yes. You've been talking for 15 minutes. Forgive
on
me.
and on and on. I know.
Nick, thanks for taking my call. I'm actually astonished by people who criticizing the movement. Don't they really aware what's going on with icebergs, with polar bear, with other parts of the world where they've been more greener areas, but they are now dried up? It's really ridiculous. Okay, it's inconvenient, but it is a real threat. Another criticism, which actually I would like to lay towards the movement, that they did not mention the population growth, because that's the biggest problem as well. Population growth means people need more resources, more water, drinking water. In the future, some specialists, politologists, they're saying that people will be fighting over the fresh water. So what we're doing to this planet is absolutely absurd. And regarding...
Yeah, but how do you solve that last one, though? I mean, unless a major war breaks out, unless, somebody is...
I understand, but we should be a little bit civilized and cohesive about it. So, which means that the governments of the major countries have to first of all, in their own countries, to show the example where all families should have one or two children, no more. Otherwise, children... I don't want to sound like a Nazi or taken away or give us a big fine. No, but, some mindless, stupid people or selfish people, they multiply. And when they shouldn't really,
yeah.
That's my
Are you thinking
opinion,
of Jacob Rees-Mogg when you said that?
Well, probably I do sound like that idiot, but... I think that that's a way to go forward.
Okay, well, there's many problems with that. Apart from the one about telling people not to have more than two children. But most people don't want more than two children. Most sensible, smart people don't want more than two children. But the problem is the inverted pyramid. Not Boris Johnson's inverted pyramid of piffle, but the inverted pyramid that says that if you have a restricted number of babies, then there eventually won't be enough people to take care of all the old people. It's if you imagine a pyramid and turn it upside down, the new people will be the pointed end at the bottom, and you want it the other way around. There'll be way too many old people at the top, being supported by not enough young people at the bottom. And who's going to be, doing the taking care of? Who's going to be earning all the money, honey? Plus, people do tend to kill female babies if they are restricted to one or two. So there's that. Thanks, Tina. Gotta go. 0345 6060 973. Mal in Belfast texts. This is all sarcastic. He says, could we please stop the volcanoes of the world to stop emitting and all the forest fires to stop igniting, which no one in the past could put out? Of course, these things went on long before people were ever on this earth. Go figure. This is how humans actually got here, but all of a sudden, we can't control it. Crusty heads doing Pilates on Westminster Bridge will not change how this earth goes about its own business. In capital letters. Well, much of it was in capital letters, like he's screaming at me. I knew we'd get one, at least one eventually. I thought we were going to get a whole slew of them. It's taken 40 minutes. Where have you been, Mal? Another one of those climate change deniers. Oh, well, there's nothing we can do about it because, weather. It's all God's work. And this says, what have you got against penguins? What's that? What's that got to do with anything? What have I got against penguins? Nothing. Let's have a call in Birkenhead. Hello, Andy.
Hello, Nick.
Andy.
You work in central London, don't you?
Yes.
And you got there.
Yeah. It's a piece of cake.
Well, did you have to do a bit of walking and a bit of biking and that?
No.
Oh. How did you get to work?
I flew.
You flew in?
Yes, I did, yeah. I jaunted in. Do you remember the Tomorrow People? I touched the buckle on my belt and then I disappeared from where I was and I reappeared here.
Oh, like Star Trek, like?
Yeah, kind of like Star Trek.
But I didn't realise it was Emma Thompson in the pink boat reading a poem. The fact it's happening, isn't it?
What, Emma Thompson?
Oh, well, she's always happening. It'd be better if it could be Dame Judi Dench. But the fact is, we've made a mistake, and it's not like India. We can kind of apologise. It is. This is happening. Sea levels are rising.
Well, you sound really exercised about it, Andy.
Thank you. No. Weather is getting more and more abnormal.
Yeah.
And a lot of people complain to me. It's like
a lot of people are complaining to you.
Well, not that I'm responsible with the weather, but no, I went over to Spain out of season, and they said, well, normally it's winter until Easter, but we had a really great February where we were all sunning ourselves.
Yeah, we had a great February weekend. It was extraordinary. But that may or may not have anything to do with climate change. I mean, who knows? That's weather. We're talking about something bigger than that. An echoing silence.
Well, no. Climate change expresses itself through weather. But over the past 30 years, it's been getting hotter and hotter and hotter.
Right. Okay, thanks for letting us know, Andy. 034, I just couldn't stand... I mean, I know I leave gaps, but that was ridiculous. So it was Emma Thompson who drew the crowd. She jetted into London's Heathrow from California on Wednesday and laughed with demonstrators as members of a group held a so-called Day of Love.
Yowza.
And it was met with a day of hate from people hundreds of miles away who spent the day poisoning the internet with their thoughts. Dame Emma compared the movement to the suffragettes, saying they also disrupted an awful lot of people's lives in order to get something that we now take for granted in their fight for the right to vote. Correctamundo. They did. And with the greatest respect, this is more important than that. I mean, there's no point having the vote if we're all floating off to the horizon using our dogs as flotation devices. Emma Watson said, unfortunately, sometimes I have to fly. But I don't fly nearly as much as I did because of my carbon footprint. And I plant a lot of trees.
Groovy.
I don't know whether that means she personally plants trees or has an assistant do it for her. Or maybe she donates money to a tree planting fund. I've got no idea. But sometimes you just got to fly. But it would be a good idea to fly less often. I was talking about this the other week. The Swedes, or the Danes, I think it's probably the Swedes. The Swedes have this movement now where it is embarrassing for you to fly. Oh, Swedish people, always so perfect. I can't believe the amount of ire that has been poured all over these protesters from people whose lives were not inconvenienced by it. I mean, if you were stuck in traffic, then yes, I understand that you were annoyed. Or if you couldn't make a delivery to where you ordinarily need to go, or if you were a cab driver and you couldn't get from one end of Oxford Street to the next, yeah, I get it. But the disruption that will be caused by the consequences of climate change is going to make that seem like nothing. Well, it is nothing, really, in the great scheme of things, is it? And we ain't going to do nothing about climate change. I mean, that is absolutely true. We are doing nothing about it. As much as we've come up with is the Paris Climate Accord, which you-know-who is too smart to have signed up to.
Trust me, I'm like a smart person.
Yeah, he believes everything that the coal industry tells him because they also give him millions of dollars in doing it. It is all about the money, honey. Dame Emma compared the movement to the suffragettes, she says, and had to explain herself about flying, like there's an option. What would the option be? Going by boat? Boats are polluting too. Very polluting, in fact. People don't talk much about that. I think we're in between technological developments. We've had the communications revolution with the internet. Oh, have you seen the internet? The stuff you'll find on there.
Disgusting.
And we're on the cusp of a revolution in power. I'm sure of it. We just got to get batteries figured out, or we've got to get to solar sorted, or maybe wind power.
I know a lot about wind.
Yeah, it's probably eating food from a bucket, Donny. That does it to me. And that's it. If you subscribe to this podcast, you'll find the next episode gets squirted up your life as though by magic on Mondays. And don't forget the other podcasts that I do. One's called The Whole Show, which is, as it sounds, the whole show that I do on the radio with the ads and the news stripped out, so you can listen to it much more quickly. And there's the one that I do with Carol McGiffin. And I know that we need a laugh these days, and that is funny. I guarantee it. Or your money back. It's called What's Your Problem with Nick and Carol, in which Carol McGiffin and I try to solve people's problems while laughing like a couple of seals. And if you would like us to solve your problem, send it to the following address, nickandcarol@global.com. That's nickandcarol@global.com. And prepare to be completely satisfied. And I'll be back on the radio Friday, Saturday and Sunday night at 10. And until then, I'll be seeing you.
Bye-bye. Bye-bye. Bye-bye.